Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 2.
Episode 2
our
of the 4Front 10-year anniversary special 4Front podcast times.
So, we started, if you haven't heard it already, check out episode 1, all about the start of 4Front, our first year or two. And now we're going to talk about some of our kind of bigger shows, aren't we?
We're moving on to when things got a little more serious.
Yeah.
Not to say that they weren't serious with like the other shows, but this is like kind of, I don't know.
I feel like when we did these shows we're going to talk about today, that really other people started recognising us as a theatre company.
Yeah. The forays into the shows that kind of put 4Front on the map a little bit more in terms of, oh no, they're actually a proper theatre company.
This is not just something that they're doing and then going to finish. No, this is actually, they're going to do this.
Was Reckless Abandon and Fisherman's Tale.
Yeah.
So Recce Bandy was first, wasn't it?
Reckless Abandon was first, yeah. Reckless Abandon was a show that I wrote, which is weird in and of itself because I don't really write the shows. Rob writes all the shows.
I mean, we were only 3 shows in, so, you know, it
wasn't
weird
but at that
then.
point, I guess. But it was a show. I think the reason you write all the shows is because you can write them in like a week, and that took me 3 years. So I wrote Reckless Abandon.
The difference.
I wrote Reckless Abandon, and I'd just kind of been writing it for fun because it was a 10-man cast.
Yeah.
And that was never realistic. We'd
had like with our Easter shows, it had been like an absolute stress and a drama finding 4 people.
Yeah.
Bearing in mind that one of them was me.
And in particular, I remember Law and Disorder. Yeah. One of them was you. One of them was me. And we really struggled to find 2 other Christian actors.
That was
like,
such
it was
a challenge.
so hard. It took us weeks, like really, really difficult to find people to do that.
Yeah.
So I was like, 10-man show, never going to happen.
Yeah. But I mean, Christmas was exactly the same. Every time we came to casting, it was one of the most difficult things to do. Yeah. That when it comes to casting a show, it's already a bit of a challenge finding the right person. But for us, we need to find someone who can not only act, but like act well, because we want it to be decent quality, but also sing really well. Also, maybe do a bit of movement and dance.
Yeah. Potentially play an instrument.
And needs to be like on it. And, you know, we want them to be on it with a faith. So we're all singing from the same page, that when we're talking about Jesus on stage, we all mean it. Yeah. So it's quite a shallow pool that we're drawing from.
And I feel like actually, as we've grown, that pool's got bigger, which is great. But at the time, we were only like just over a year or 2 in. And I had this 10-man show. And I was like, I feel like maybe God's saying that we should do this, but maybe I'm hearing that wrong because it's a 10-man show.
Because we couldn't get 2, let alone 10.
Literally like a couple of weeks before we'd needed 2. And then I was like, oh, let's do a 10-man show. But we were like, actually, like maybe that is the right thing to do.
I mean, one of the big things about 4Front is that we're always like, well, let's just push the door.
Yeah.
Let's try it. If it's vaguely something that could glorify God and seems to be a good idea and whatever, we'll push the door because God will tell us no if not.
Yeah.
It has told us no on quite a few things.
It has, yeah. I feel like we live our life by that, not just like 4Front. That's just like... So we thought, you know what, we'll push the door with Reckless Abandon. And the first 10 people that we asked said yes.
It was, wasn't it? We didn't even get a single no.
We didn't get one single no. And I was like...
one after the other approaching people. And they were like, yeah, totally,
and this was like my, like... not like dream cast, I guess you would say, but it was people that I really wanted in the show. Like I really wanted them to be that
concessions
part.
There was
no concessions in it.
I mean, there was Ollie. But, you know.
I even wanted Ollie. And so initially we were like, okay, we'll get together. We'll do a read through. We'll, you know, maybe get this show together. But again, like, it's a 10-man show. That means it's very expensive. Very expensive.
Yeah.
Just in actors' fees, that is expensive.
Yeah.
And some of the people that I'd wanted to be in the show had been actors, but were now working normal jobs. So their freedom for rehearsal and touring was limited. So actually what we did was we rehearsed at weekends for several months, actually, I think, didn't we? And then our first show in May, which was at St. Peter's Baptist in Worcester, and it just went down so well, didn't it? It was so good. So really different to everything we'd ever done. But our second show was on the main stage at Creation Fest.
It was, wasn't it?
It was our second performance we'd ever done.
So the second performance of the show was in front of over 1,000 people.
It was 1,500 people. And I mean, that was definitely a God thing. Because they were like, just main stage,
Go for it.
1,500 people.
Because we'd been involved in Creation Fest for a couple of years at that point.
Since the beginning.
But
in the
doing
kids'
the
tent.
daily dramas in the kids' tent.
Yeah, in the kids' tent. We did the show and we got a standing ovation. We got a standing ovation from 1,500 people. And I was like, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. Literally, I think that is one of my highlights of 4Front, absolute highlights of 4Front. But off the back of that, we started a relationship with the Mission Aviation Fellowship.
That's where we partnered with MAF.
It is, yeah. So the show, Reckless Abandon, if you don't know what it is a show based around Elizabeth Elliot. It's a true story about the 10 missionaries who went out to Ecuador in the 1950s, and sadly, the husbands were all killed, leaving the 5 wives alive. It's an amazing story.
Yeah,
I won't ruin it for you.
Inspirational.
Really inspirational, true story. But the pilot of the husbands, there was one guy who was the pilot who took the men out to the Ecuadorian jungle. Yeah. And he was a pilot for the Mission Aviation Fellowship. And MAF, the Mission Aviation Fellowship, were at Creation Fest, weren't they? So they saw that show. Yeah. And off the back of that, we started a relationship with them, didn't we? Which was amazing.
And so we partnered with MAF, and it meant that they had a bit more funding to make it doable for us to actually tour the show.
Yeah.
So they then toured it in partnership with MAF, which meant that we could get it off the ground, planes, and do the show. It went amazing. The feedback we had was ridiculously overwhelming.
It was amazing.
And it also meant that we could gain extra supporters to support the work of MAF and everything they're doing.
Yeah, so that was a really key, pivotal moment, I think, for 4Front. And we, off the back of that show then, we did a few more sporadic shows, I guess, on weekends. And then the following 2 years, we did an intense tour for a week or two for the next 2 years.
And the set got upgraded as we went.
It did. And I think the best tour, in my opinion, was the one with Jamie Saint.
It wasn't really the show that we did. We teamed up with Jamie Saint, who is the grandson of the pilot from the original story.
Nate Saint,
Nate Saint. And so he would tell the story from his family's perspective. We would then act out bits of the story. And then Kathy Burton also played songs.
Yeah.
It was
and
fantastic.
And we talked about the work of the MAF.
Yeah, and ultimately, there was loads of people who signed up to support the work of MAF that continues today.
It was really good. It was amazing meeting Jamie, because he came over from America and, literally I'd spent hours and hours researching his family, basically, his granddad,
who great.
Of course he had never met because he died. Oh, and then actually Elizabeth Elliot's granddaughter also came to see the show. So she came to see the show because she lives in England now. Yeah. So it's just really cool being able to share the story with people whose family it was. Yeah. But also, I mean, for me personally, Elizabeth Elliot has always been my number one inspirational person. I just think she's amazing. Hero of the faith. She's brilliant. I loved Reckless Abandon. Maybe it'll come back at some point, but it was a good show. And I think the other show that really put us on the map was Fisherman's Tale. No, not Chuck Blaze.
I love Chuck Blaze.
Fisherman's Tale.
Fisherman's Tale was, so we'd done Easter shows, and it was and we're doing another show to tie in with Easter to look at the story of Jesus from a different perspective. For Fisherman's, I was I don't want to just do it because that's what we're doing. I don't want to get stuck in a pattern of doing stuff. And it was are we doing an Easter show just to do an Easter show? So I had a complete rethink, and it was sack it. We're doing a musical. We're doing a full-blown musical about the life of Jesus, and we'll focus it on the fisherman disciples, and it's going to be actor musician as well.
Because, it's not hard enough finding actors that can sing. Let's try and find ones that can't just play one instrument, but that can play several instruments as well.
As it worked out, so there's a 5-man cast, and every actor needed to play at least 3 instruments in the show. I
feel like a lot of people who are maybe listening to this podcast don't actually know the original Fisherman's Tale, because Fisherman's Tale, what it is now, is very different. It was, now we've got what we originally called the school's version, which is a 4-man cast, just the fishermen, and doing to backing tracks and an hour-long show. Originally,
and there's the show, as it's been more commonly, as it's been more recently known, the focus has been on energy, fun, lads just messing around, throwing lobster pots at each other, and camaraderie and friendship of the fishermen, and that's been really strong. But originally, the show was much more about musicality and the storytelling, and then actually it was telling the story and sea shanty vibes, and that kind of, it was much more about the music.
And it had a girl in it.
Yes, and we had a female narrator as well. Yeah. So it was 5 because it was the 4 fishermen lads, and then Maya, who was
or Maya, depending on how you want to pronounce the name.
I wrote it. It's Maya. And we had Peter's wife, so she was there as kind of fisherman's wife, telling the old wives' tale kind of thing of.
She was very much like magical storyteller character.
Yeah, like Joseph-esque.
Yeah, very Joseph-esque actually. Yeah.
So it was much more of a involved storytelling through the music, live on stage, and we do instrument swaps mid-song.
Yeah.
And it was like we were moving around with the instruments and dancing with the instruments and like
falling over with the instruments.
Yeah, man. Like this Jesus Man, which was such a slog to learn.
It's a 10-minute song.
It's a 10-minute song, which is effectively 3 or 4 songs all mashed together and tells most of Jesus' ministry
life and miracles,
like in one big song.
I think one of my favourite / funniest memories of that tour of Fisherman's Tale, that very first one, was when I came to see it, because again, I wasn't in that show, and I came to see it, and you missed an entire song. You literally missed an entire section of the show.
Also, the song that we missed, we got True Fisherman, and then it's Naught But a Fisherman's Tale.
Which the song is called Fisherman's... the show is called Fisherman's Tale.
The show is called Fisherman's Tale. The whole, like, setting up the premise of the title of the show, Fisherman's Tale, spelt T-A-I-L, we missed the song. We just accidentally skipped forward in the scene and missed the cue line that starts the song, and no one realised that we'd missed the whole song until we finished the scene. And we were like, oh. And then you get to the finale, and the finale starts with the reprise of Naught But a Fisherman's Tale, but acknowledging the wordplay and the silliness. And it was like, oh. And we just had to just do it and hope it vaguely made... It didn't make sense. It made no sense. We're doing a reprise of a song that was tongue-in-cheek referencing the earlier song to a song we hadn't played.
We didn't do it. That was so funny. I just remember you coming off stage and I was like, you just missed an entire song out of the show. Like, it's much shorter. I felt like such a bad guy because they all came off stage as high as kites.
That was such a good show.
Amazing show.
I just loved it. It went so well. The energy was great. And that was like, what on earth was that?
And literally, I felt really bad, but I was like, you literally missed an entire section of the show. You missed out a whole song. And it was just a bit scrappy. Like,
I just didn't clock it.
Was like, that was not a good show. You need to get on your lines in the van and make sure the next one's better. I was a bit mean, but you did miss an entire song out of the show.
Yeah.
But the great thing about that show was we did it at Easter, the actor musician version, and it was really successful. I think like
again, the feedback off the back of Fisherman's was overwhelming.
Another pivotal point in our journey as 4Front, definitely. And off the back of that, we'd already decided that we'd want to do a schools version of it, hadn't we? And we'd decided that we wanted to do a schools version that did not involve taking all those instruments into school.
Oh, my days.
Because touring the double bass, I mean, the double bass takes up most of the van, which is very frustrating.
The van pack for that show was mad.
Yeah. So we decided that off the back of the Easter show, we'd do a schools version, which was cut down, backing tracks, just the 4 fishermen, and as Rob said earlier, is the show that you would recognise today as Fisherman's Tale. We basically funded that tour from donations at Easter.
Yeah.
So I remember that we said at Easter, because we'd already decided it, we said, look, we want to do this around schools, and if you want to give to that, then please do. And and we funded 2 to 3 weeks of tour the following month, really May or June, I think it was, just from donations at that Easter, which was amazing and definitely was a confirmation from God for us that this is, what he wants us doing. Fisherman's Tale has become such a key show for us at 4Front, and actually since it began in 2017 until COVID, even in 2020 actually it was on the road. It took a gap in 2021, but we did it again in 2022 and 23. So it'd been on the road every year and still getting lots of bookings, which was amazing. But I feel like we've had a lot of fishermen's boys And that's been really nice.
We've had a load of lads.
A lot of Fisherman's boys working with us over the years, and I've loved them.
Yeah. One of the, I mean, that's the thing, that the musical version of the show had so many merits and was so, like, as a piece of like theatre and art, had like maybe a little more kind of clout to it because of like the impressiveness and the talent and the piece of theatre and all that kind of stuff. But with the school show, the camaraderie and like fun and the portrayal of the disciples. In the original show, it's like, here's the portrayal of the disciples as rough working lads who were just trying to figure it out, and that's what being a disciple is all about. Is all about figuring it out and trying to keep up with Jesus because we're just simple. We're humble people. We're humble fishermen. But the school's version really brought through the friendship. The friendship that actually part of being disciples is about. Leaning on your friends and learning to do faith and discipleship alongside others. There was something about the teams that we put together that just got on well. And one of the really nice bits of feedback we got from lots of the different tours was, it's really nice that you can see that they're just friends. And the friendship comes through on stage. And that's a lovely thing to see in the disciples. And that it's really great for the kids to have male role models. That has been a surprising thing, that actually we didn't set out for, the original Fisherman's Tale, it was female narrating the whole thing, and
it's kind of female led in that
a little bit with the whole of the narrative being led by Maya. But then for the school's version with the lads, we were a bit like, is it bad that we've not got female representation, if you like, and is this a bad thing that we've just got 4 lads on stage? But in the context of primary schools, where 70% of teaching staff...
I think it's over that. I think it's more than that.
One of the last stats I heard was 70% of all teaching staff, including janitors and all the rest of it, are all female. And we face a massive numbers of absent fathers and not having dads on the scene. That in primary schools, we had it so many times from teachers, from parents, from people saying that it's so good seeing male role models on stage. Seeing
positive
4 lads
who
are positive male role models and supporting each other and being friends and there for one another as a thing of, this is what guys do. And that was we hadn't planned for that in the slightest. It's not
almost like God planned it.
I know. We didn't set out to make something which is championing positive masculinity or anything like that. But it was really nice how just lads coming together, trying to follow Jesus and supporting each other, and setting an example for all the kids in school. That it was nice.
It's really nice. Really good. And of course, the thing we did set out to do was to tell people about Jesus, and that is the heart of that show, is to tell people about the life and miracles of Jesus. It follows him right from right the way through to death and resurrection.
And I think that's one of the things about Fisherman's that was great as well, that we have seen thousands and thousands of children in primary schools up and down the country with the show Fisherman's Tale. And whereas, in a Christmas show, we're finding ways to work the gospel message in, whereas in some of the other shows, we're finding ways to point it back to Jesus, with Fisherman's Tale, from start to finish, it is about Jesus. It is explicitly...
There's no hiding it.
There's no hiding it whatsoever. It's on the tin that this is a Jesus thing, and this is exactly what Jesus was about, who he is and why he loves you.
My favourite hosting story from Fisherman's Tale. This is Jake and Sandy. So they were staying with a host because the way that we run as 4Front is that we rely on the generosity of local families, local people putting up our actors, don't we? So often families from the local church will say, I've got a spare room. I can house an actor for a night, give them breakfast, and off they go. So thank you. If you've ever hosted one of our actors or us, thank you.
And just in case, sorry. No, it's
it really makes
nice,
a huge difference to what we do. But this one particular time, Jake and Sandy were staying together, and they were in a house that had a front door and then a porch and then another front door, and they were going out at 6 a.m. So the person who was hosting them had been like, here's the keys, it'll unlock the door, and then once you've locked it, just put them back through the letterbox, and then off you go. That's great. So Jake and Sandy go out the front door, lock it back up, put the keys back through the letterbox, turn round to go out the porch door, and it's locked. And so literally we got a video of them at like 6 o'clock in the morning, stood in this little porch between two locked doors, which was so funny. And they had to ring the bell and wake up the host, sadly, at 6 o'clock in the morning because they'd posted the keys back through the door.
Why would they not try the outside door first? How did they just get through the first one and stuck in a porch? They're not a thing. Oh,
very,
brilliant.
very funny. Yeah, but that was good. And maybe touching on the Edinburgh Fringe a little bit, Rob. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we went to the Ed Fringe. We went twice. We worked with Carrubbers, which is a church on the Royal Mile. Absolutely fantastic church in Edinburgh.
Yeah.
And so we did a show. We did Fisherman's Tale, and it went absolutely brilliantly.
It did. It went so
and one
well.
of the things that was amazing about that is that we do loads of public shows in churches and at events and things. Often when we do public shows, like a church for an outreach event or whatever else it is, usually, I mean, you can say that maybe there's a percentage split of like 70% of people there are church people already. They already know Jesus in some capacity, and maybe 30% of them are like been invited along or whatever else. That's, successful outreach event. And that's great and that's lovely. But the Fringe, that was kind of swapped on its head. And actually 70% probably of the people who were there were from the street that we'd managed to call in with flyers, with window band, which I'll get to in a minute. And it was great knowing that you've got a bigger chunk of your audience that actually might need to hear this message and might not know Jesus for themselves. And yeah, it was as a kind of outreach and evangelism. The Fringe was, great for that.
It was amazing. So the first year at Carrubbers, we did it in their upstairs room, which held about 70. And by the end of the run, we were selling that out, which was amazing.
Yeah.
And downstairs, the next year, we did it in their main hall, which is much bigger. How many does that sit? Like
200.
200, yeah.
300, something like that.
But the best day that we had 150 people in one day. And that was amazing.
Managing to, across the whole run at the Fringe, managing to get successful numbers is quite an achievement and quite a feat.
But that didn't mean that we made a load of money on it just because we sold some days out.
We went expecting it to be a big money loss. And that's with it being crazy subsidised by having Carrubbers helping with the venue and with hosts.
But it was, I think the first year we got a grant, which was amazing. In fact, I think we got a grant both years, which covered a large amount of the costs for us, which was amazing. We did manage to break even both years, which
you'll find, if you remember rightly, when we did the accounts, we found that not only had we had a successful run at the Fringe,
I do remember this,
in the second year, we made money.
Yes, we did.
At a run at the Fringe. We came home with £4,
yes,
baby.
We did. We made £4 whole pounds.
£4 whole pounds of Fringe profits.
It was great.
All for 4Front. Yeah, it's thematic. And we also stumbled upon the best marketing tool ever, which genuinely played into one of the reasons we did so well on numbers, window band. We realised in the venue there was 5 big windows that overlooked the Royal Mile, and they were big enough to stand in.
Yeah, that was really great. The first year, absolutely amazing.
That was
really, really good. And the second year actually went okay.
Yeah, and that was funny
new
because
Edinburgh rules. It wasn't anything to do with the church.
The first year we did it, we'd come out and we'd do these sea shanties, and they were really good, and people loved them. And every time we'd do them, we'd gather a crowd of 100 to 200 people,
easily.
And they'd applaud it, and we'd be like, "Come see the show. It's on at this time." And you'd have the residents in the buildings opposite. It was fun that there was this little old lady who used to come out every time, and she'd be there before we started, waiting for
it. She was
she'd,
great.
Wave.
Yeah.
It was really good. People loved it. The second year, because that was an official busking spot.
It became an official busking spot.
We
in
then
the
had to
second
be like,
year,
okay, well, these are the times that we can do. We had to talk to the Fringe about it.
Yeah,
and then,
it became a bit more of a thing.
Yeah.
It was good. I think I have mixed memories of the Fringe. It was hard.
It was challenging.
It was really hard.
It was a real challenge. It was a slog, if nothing else.
I think it's easy sometimes to look at us like we're having lots of fun all the time and all the teams are getting on really well. But actually, truth be told, that was really difficult team-wise and really very difficult personally because of that, I think.
Yeah,
I think
struggled.
we personally took a really big morale hit after that.
It's the funny thing. We've had a couple of projects where the wins and the positive sides of the project and the work and things have been so good and so high, and we finished the project and come home feeling incredibly deflated because of the personal side of it. And that we've got a long-term supporter and friend of 4Front, Diane, who will probably listen to this. Hi, Diane. And she would always say that if you're about to do something good, or if you're going to do, or if you've just done something amazing for Jesus, then it's not going to be a surprise when things start going wrong and when you feel attack.
Yeah.
And like, man, have we felt that.
Oh,
and
it's in so many ways. Yeah.
It's so, like on that one, it was with the personal dynamics and the team dynamics on tour. And with just things went a bit wrong, sadly. And I hope it's fine now, but it was
I think for
messy at the
me,
time.
when I look back at my 4Front career, I think that was one of the times I've been hurt the most. And yeah, it is okay now, but it was significant.
Yeah, and then we've had tech. There's been stuff with tech and
Let's
stuff
not
with
talk
vans
about tech.
and and stuff that just goes wrong in what is going on here?
Yeah.
This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
We'll pick up some of the struggles and things, but
in another episode.
Sometimes the attack that we faced because we've been doing something for Jesus has been mad. And it's almost you feel that I can't even. It's not even mad at the van. I'm not even mad at the tech. I'm not even mad at the team stuff that's going on. I'm mad at the fact that there's this opposition to us trying to do something good.
Yeah. And yet we should expect it because it literally says that in the Bible, doesn't it? Anyway, I think we should bring this episode to a close.
So I think the Reckless Abandon and Fisherman's Tale really helped us establish as a theatre company in terms of reputationally, what other people think, and that kind of putting us on what we do is good, but also in terms of how we run as a theatre company, the amount of people that we worked with through those shows, the way that we work, the level that we work, the capacity and the kind of professionalism and all that kind of stuff. It's been all sorts of challenges and stresses and a lot of hard work along the way. God has been so faithful through all of it and taught us so much.
And continues to be.
Yeah, and continues to be, And I feel like we really learn a lot about that's when we put on our big boy pants through Reckless Abandon and Fisherman's Tale.
Yeah. We went from being students kind of learning to do something to being apprentices. Still learning, not quite there yet.
Learning.
But a bit more than.
No, we're still not experts in the field.
No,
but
we're not.
At least some people think we are.
How mistaken they are. No, I'm joking. Anyway, join us for episode 3 where we get to look at virtual Sunday school.
Oh, foray into children's ministry.
Children's ministry and the COVID years and what they did for 4Front as well. Bye.
Bye.